So you're thinking you want to leave Chicago and maybe Ohio has your attention. You're looking at that. So stick around. I want to tell you what some of the biggest differences are between living in Chicago and Ohio, specifically the Columbus area. Hi all, MaryChris Williams here with eXp Realty and the MCW Home Group. Thanks for tuning back in to the Living in Columbus channel where we teach you about all things about relocating to the Ohio area. So this topic I am pretty excited about, and the reason being is my family and I lived in Chicago for a little over 6 years. We lived in the West Loop on Green Street, in between Madison and Halsted and Randolph. So right in there. And we absolutely adored Chicago. And when we moved back to Columbus for the first time, we were coming from Chicago. So we have so much firsthand experiences of what the differences are and what was hard for us to acclimate getting used to living in Ohio, specifically Columbus, as compared to Chicago. So stick around. You're gonna laugh at the last one because it's a good one. But here, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Number one, I think this one is pretty obvious. Coming from Chicago is pretty fast-paced, and you're moving to a Midwestern town in Columbus. So it is slower paced. And it was hard for us to first get acclimated to that. For example, let me give you an example. We moved here, we were kind of settled. I was going into Starbucks. And I was like, whoa, the drive-thru. You know, we don't do drive-thrus in Chicago because you usually walk in, but there was a drive-thru. I'm like, okay, let me get in the drive-thru. And it was taking so long. I'm like, no, too long. I'm impatient. Let me park my car and go in because that's going to be quicker. I'm used to ordering Starbucks that way. And I went in, I ordered my Starbucks, and the barista was asking me how my day was, what was I planning to do today? And I was looking at her like, what are you talking about? I'm not used to this. Just give me my coffee. I want to go. I want to go on to the next thing. This is taking way too long. But I had to take a breath and remember I'm in a different place. People aren't as rushed. People take their time. You have to take a deep breath. I had to make my anxiety go down, that it's okay. I don't need to be in a rush. And the second thing that happened is when you're driving, you don't have to be in a rush. You don't hear as many horns, but maybe you will, because when we first got here, people aren't used to how you drive in a city here. So we're driving, I'm like, oh, there's plenty of room over there for me to cut around and get around this person. I, go over and then go back over in my other lane. Horns are honking at me. I'm like, what's wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm used to driving in Chicago traffic. Well, you gotta slow down here. You can't cut people off. And again, that's not bumper to bumper traffic. People aren't honking their horns. Everything is a slower pace. So your first couple months, you gotta learn to take the edge off a little bit to acclimate into a Midwestern city. The second thing I would say is when we lived downtown Chicago, and even when we would go out to the suburbs, there's so many people, and you can kind of be anonymous. You just kind of do your thing. Other people are doing their things, but we learned, we're going into the grocery store here, and people who are your neighbors remember who you are, and they say, hey, how are you doing? They'll knock on your door. You'll see people the same faces over and over. So it's a lot friendlier here. Not that Chicago's not friendly, it is friendly for a big city, but it's just a little different. People are genuinely concerned about you. They want to know what's going on in your life. So you just got to step back and kind of embrace that. You'll learn to like it, but it was a little bit different when we first moved here. Number 3, nature. So living in the city, living in Chicago, green space, you know, you have a park, it's a block, maybe you have a dog park, you have some trees, and it was really nice when we lived in Chicago to go into the park, especially when the kids were little. But here, the nature parks are acres and acres and acres of green space and rivers. And I remember we would go hiking and we would go creeking, what we called it. It was so relaxing. So you get to experience a lot more nature when you're here, and it's really beautiful because we have the 4 seasons. So we have the fall, the autumn is an awesome time to explore all the metro parks. I actually have another video about some of the top reasons of living in Columbus, and it highlights what the metro parks are. So I'll link it after this video so you can kind of look and see the pictures of what I'm talking about. But nature, it's a big thing here in Columbus, Ohio, and I think you'll really like it. Okay, number 4, this is kind of a funny one. It's quiet. It's really quiet. Especially if you're coming from living downtown Chicago. I'll tell you a little funny story. The first time that we relocated back here, we moved to a neighborhood called Gulf Village, which is in Powell. It's a suburban neighborhood. You know, our lots were 0.3 acres. We were on a loop, a cul-de-sac. There's houses all over. And it was kind of one of our first nights, and our master bedroom was on the main floor. So we were on the main floor and we were going to bed, and I looked at my husband. I'm like, it is too stinking quiet here. I'm scared. Like, first of all, my bedroom's on the first floor. Someone can just climb in my window. And second of all, I don't hear horns honking. I don't hear sirens. I don't hear people outside late at night. Like, is someone gonna come in our house and murder us? We were not used to that quietness. Now I love it, but it really was a change. And we still to this day, that was like, no, that was, oh my gosh, how long ago? That was like 12 years ago when we first moved back to Columbus, and we still laugh at how funny and how nervous we were sleeping our first night in our suburban home in Powell, Ohio. So you just have to accept the quietness. It is a difference. You will get used to it. Number 5, alcohol. Not that I'm a heavy drinker or anything, but I do like my wine and I do like my margaritas, and my husband does work for Anheuser-Busch. So we're pretty familiar with alcohol laws and stuff from state to state. And I will tell you, I mean, when we lived in Utah, there are crazy alcohol laws. When we lived in Indiana, and you know, laws when it comes to alcohol is governed by the state. So of course they're different. But one thing in Ohio that I didn't realize is on Sundays, you cannot purchase wine or liquor. Beer you can, but you cannot purchase wine or liquor before 1 p.m. on Sundays. So I was doing my grocery shopping, you know, on Sunday morning. I had some wine in my car and go to the checkout, and they're like, you can't purchase that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm definitely over 21. Here's my ID. Take a look at it. They're like, no, you can't purchase that today. And I didn't understand. They're like, you have to come back at 1 o'clock. And I was like, okay. I kind of felt really silly, but I said, okay. And then I called my husband, like, what is going on? And he said that that's a law. So that's one thing that was funny. The second thing was, another time I was at the grocery store and I was making vodka sauce. Really, really good recipe. And I was in Giant Eagle, that's one of our grocery stores here. And I was going around trying, you know, in the alcohol aisle looking for vodka. And I could not find it. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I must have spent 10 minutes there. And finally I asked someone and they said, oh, it's in the liquor department. And I didn't understand. In Ohio, the high proof alcohol cannot be in a grocery store, cannot be in a convenience store. It has to be in a separate liquor store at a different location that has a different entrance. So for example, in Giant Eagle, you can get to it from the main thing, but it's kind of hidden. You have to walk and it's a whole nother store with the high proof alcohol. So those are two quirky things that you will notice a little difference if you're moving from a different state, specifically Chicago. All right, number 6, things in Ohio close early. And one of the biggest things when we first moved back here, what I was thinking about is kind of convenience stores, drugstores like CVS, Walgreens. You know, I was used to, if I needed something, to go walking to Walgreens or driving to Walgreens, 1 in the morning, midnight, everything's open. Here, 9 o'clock, the Walgreens is closed. I was like, okay, you go in the morning, and it's not opened yet. A lot of the restaurants, for example, we still do live in downtown Powell, and my girlfriend and I were going out. We were going to dinner, and then we wanted some drinks after. And it was like 10 o'clock, and everything was closed on a Tuesday. So you have to, it's okay. I'm not a huge night owl, but it's just a different pace of living that if you're going out to dinner or if you're going for a late night out, just be sure to check because the place you might be going to will close at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. It's a little different lifestyle. All right, number 7. This is my best one. And it has to do with parking. The one thing I loved about living here is you don't have to pay for parking. I mean, you usually have to pay $35 downtown to get into Macy's in the parking garage or something for just 20 minutes. So you do not have the fees and the costs associated with parking. I remember we were with some people and we went to a parking garage. We were at Easton, which is the mall out kind of in New Albany, Ohio. And it was $5 to park. And they were like, my gosh, this is ludicrous, $5? And I'm like, no, it's really not. I'm maybe used to paying $35 or $40 for parking. So you will not have parking issues. You can find parking, you can park on the street. There are parking lots that you don't have to pay for. Parking garages are typically free. So that's kind of a nice thing. Okay, those are my tips. I kind of hope you found them interesting and a little humorous because it is kind of an adjustment going from a big city and moving here to Columbus, but we love it here. So it was all worth it. If after this video you're still thinking about relocating to Columbus, I'm gonna put this video up here. It's talking about the pros or cons. It's gonna talk about the metro parks that I talked about. I'll give you a little more information about what it's like and feels like to live in Columbus. So hope you like this, and please list any comments below. Go ahead and subscribe so you get notification of when we upload new videos every week to help with your relocation. All right, bye guys.